Hi folks, it's Noah here with a quick tip or two about style overrides and instance swapping in Figma. I use this a lot in my icon work, especially when integrating them with UI kits or design systems, and we can cut down a lot of headaches and reduce a lot of friction, ideally, when building them out into new components and stuff like that. So let's take a look. So I've got a nice bunch of icons here, and maybe I'm starting to integrate them into buttons or other things. And along the way, I realize that perhaps there's a version of this that I want to have a colored icon. And that's all well and good, but if I end up wanting to swap out that icon for different versions of this button through the instance swapper, the colors or other styles and effects that I've chosen aren't going to persist. So we can actually fool Figma into thinking that these are the same object by renaming them the same thing, which is an interesting little hack. It's a lot like smart animation in Figma too, where you're tracking changes across two frames via a naming convention. So in this case, with like the car, what we can do is we can actually take all the different pieces. You can see they're all kind of various random rectangle names, and create a Boolean union with all of them inside it. We could do the same for maybe like the airplane and this. And this is actually already a large subtract thing. So we don't have to create something. We can just actually mechanically rename it the same. So just union. So in this case, these should persist. Now, of course, editing that or creating a new object will perhaps break some instances. Like in this case, it reverted back to its black color that rather than the white we had chosen. But the nice thing is now, if I go in here and pick one of those ones that we tried before, the color will carry over because they're named the same thing. Figma thinks they're the same object. So we can even carry that through in other instances or variants of them if we want to, say, do something like that, and the color will carry over. Super useful for building out a lot of different styled components without having to make different versions of the same icons or something like that. A much more robust version of this was actually in some of our recent work on row. Something we were experimenting with was kind of a duotone approach, where the set could function in an interesting way regardless of the different product vertical, because they had different various lines of health products, and they each kind of had a color associated with them. So some way we could kind of help use them as visual guideposts regardless of the modal or the order screen or whatever you were in. You would know what kinds of products you were dealing with because of the colors of the icons. And so one thing we were looking at was, as this is a good example, where we could use kind of that duotone approach with portions of the icons. And so maybe we had another one that could be maybe a little bit more on the blue side, and all of these would still easily carry over using that same duotone approach. Let me find another good one. Yeah, I always like the thumbs up. So the way that we achieved that was through a very simple way, really. If we look over here on the left, each of these icons is built out of two pieces. One is icon, which is essentially just the outlines. And then there's another item called fill. And that is what Figma is keeping track of and targeting with the color overrides. And since they're all named fill, they're always going to retain the color that you chose. And granted, these are all very nice and cleaned up. This is how things will be delivered to clients when I work on them, or when I'm integrating them into your UI kit or design system, as opposed to, say, these that hadn't really been dealt with yet in terms of cleanup. And so ideally, we won't even really have much of that stage. Everything should be nice and set for integration into components. But if you find yourself running into issues like that, hopefully that will help clear up some things and reduce your headaches. So thanks a lot, and hope to have some more tips soon.